While Handel thrilled London with his opera seria, in Italy, opera buffa, or comic opera, with its simple stagings, was flourishing in small theatres that had sprung up in every town. Opera buffa told tales of ordinary people, albeit in quirky circumstances.
In an opera buffa, you get away from conventions of opera seria. You can put servants on stage. You can make the story about the servants. You can give them the best music to sing.
Opera buffa appealed to the middle classes. It was much cheaper to stage, and now the public could actually afford to go. And the next composer to revolutionize opera wasn't Italian either. It was none other than the great Mozart himself. Born in Austria, he traveled all around Italy with his father, devouring everything he heard and performing as a keyboard prodigy in theaters like this gorgeous one in Mantua. He'd already written a couple of Italian operas by the time he was 14.
When Mozart started writing Italian operas, which was the prestige area at that time, the way you could make the most money, there's no doubt about the fact that he always wrote with a German accent, if you want. And this is particularly the case with the instrumental parts. Germans were famous for writing instrumental music. Italians were famous for writing vocal music. Mozart could blend those two together.
And when he eventually joined forces with the Italian librettist Lorenzo da Ponte in Vienna, they created 3 opera buffa masterpieces, Don Giovanni, Così fan tutte, and The Marriage of Figaro, about a crazy day in a noble household when 2 servants, Figaro and Susanna, are trying to get married. When you think that in the first number, for instance, of Marriage of Figaro, it's a wedding day, and all the preparations are being made, and you have the bustling figure, you have the second violin's playing this. Now, in a lot of other composers' music, that would be the main feature, but no, at the same time, we have a figure, a very measured figure. And this is Figaro measuring a bed, which is going to be the bed he and Susanna will sleep in, to see if it fits in this room. So together, those 2 figures. Against that, you have Figaro thinking, oh, this is going to work. This is going to be good. Oh, yes. Now, those are 3 different kinds of music, but they're all happening at the same time. Mozart makes the orchestra a character in the drama, evoking mood, telling us what the characters are thinking and feeling. He brought the lifeblood of theater through the orchestra. Just listen to the woodwind duetting with Figaro's vocal line. But it's not just the orchestral color that makes the opera sparkle. It's the words. Now, it's quite uncanny how Mozart, a non-Italian, working with an Italian librettist, manages to capture the rhythm of the language, the innate musicality of the language. Listen to this line. when Susanna is explaining how the Count is tired of chasing these foreign beauties. Il signor Conte è stanco di andar cacciando le straniere bellezze forestiere.
Il signor Conte è stanco di andar cacciando le straniere bellezze forestiere.
The double consonants, cacciando, bellezze, beauties.
E di chi dunque?
Della tua Susannetta.
Di te?
Di me medesima. E da speranza che al nobile suo progetto utilissima sia tal vicinanza.
A lot of time and effort was put into this way the language needed to jump off the page so an audience would be kept on the edge of their seats, somehow kept alive by the rhythm that is in the speech.
Don Basilio, mio maestro di canto, il suo mezzano, nel darmi la lezione mi ripete ogni di questa canzone.
Basilio? Oh, birbante!
The Italian is perfect. In Handel's operas, characters rarely sang together, but Mozart seized on the dramatic possibilities of the ensemble, even allowing the servants to outwit their masters. The Marriage of Figaro has one of the great ensembles of all opera. It's the finale of Act Two, and what's brilliant about it is that it's many different kinds of music all at once. It starts with the Count trying to bash down the door, thinking that Cherubino, the young whippersnapper who's in love with the Countess, is hiding. So here the orchestra is just slamming away here and breaking that door down. And the Count saying, "Come out here, you wretch, sciagurato, garzon malnato."
Esco vai, garzon malnato, sciagurato, non parlar.
Ma signor, mezz'ore, e non sappe come crede, che non sappe come crede.
Finally, the door does open, and who comes out but Susanna? But instead of playing the dramatic card, Mozart goes in a completely different direction. Signore! The music is as coy as it is clever.
Cos'è questo cuore? Il brano prendete, il paggio celete, quel paggio malnato. Vedetelo qua, quel paggio malnato. Vedetelo
Of course, the Count is furious. I was wrong. How could I have been mistaken?
Che sbaglio mai presi, che sbaglio mai presi, appena lo credo.
So you see how the orchestra is participating in the way these people are thinking.
Signori di fuori son già I suonatori.
Imagine the theatrical tension that is built through these different layers in this ensemble, adding a character and then another character with a different kind of music.
Ah, signor, signor, cosa è stato? Che violenza che veggi che
The music becoming more and more energetic, more theatrical. Faster, louder.
Vengo qui per testino che prometto matrimonio come famiglia
This way of taking the audience, of grabbing them by the scruff of their necks and showing them some incredibly real emotions, was just a step into another world. This is Mozart's genius, the way he has ratcheted up this tension to finish the act. Mozart's theatrical use of the orchestra laid the ground rules for the master of comic timing, who was as Italian as you can get, Gioacchino Rossini. Born in the small town of Pesaro on the Adriatic coast in 1792, just a year after Mozart died, he wrote 40 operas in 20 years.
When you look and you listen to Rossini, you have life.
Rossini's father was a trumpet player and a horn player, and his mother was a singer. Now, his father was a fervent Republican and a notorious political agitator. In fact, he was thrown in jail for a year. And of course, this made life very, very difficult for the young Rossini and his mother. But he recognized his little boy's talent. And although Gioacchino was a mischievous child, a very mischievous child, he was very, very well trained from the very beginning, devouring the music of Mozart and Haydn, especially. In fact, in school, he was called Il Tedeschino, the little German, because he was absolutely, completely enamored of this repertoire. In fact, it formed him in a way. It imbued him with a sense of classicism, proportion, elegance, and wit, which became his trademarks, of course. Like Mozart, he was a precocious talent. He had his first opera staged when he was 18, and within 3 years, he had composed 10 more. It didn't take long for him to reach the famous stage of La Fenice in Venice. Here, in 1813, Rossini was catapulted to fame with his opera seria Tancredi. He was 21 years old. Over the next 16 years, he rose to stratospheric heights, writing at great speed both opera seria and opera buffa. His musical versatility was extraordinary. He once famously said, "Give me a shopping list, and I'll set it to music." By Rossini's time, the rising star of the operatic stage was the tenor.
I think Rossini has played a very important role in putting the tenor on the top. Io la ritroverò, se fosse in gremo a Giove. Io la ritroverò, se fosse in gremo a Giove. La troverò, sì la troverò. When the castrati died out, he, in a way, passed that emblematic voice, emblematic figure, to the tenor and the mezzo-soprano.
Rossini was the master of different types of vocal delivery that showed off his singer's prowess. This style of writing for the voice was known as bel canto, literally beautiful singing. But it's so much more. I've come to the Rossini Festival in Pesaro to see my friend Juan Diego Flores performing in one of Rossini's lesser-known opera seria, Zelmira. It has some of his most challenging writing for the tenor voice.
maestro.
Ciao, Juan Diego.
How are you? ¿Cómo estás?
The day after the show, we met up for lunch, with Juan Diego sporting a beard grown for his role in Zelmira. Last night, you sang with such incredible virtuosity. I mean, I've worked with you, I've heard you sing very quick, I've heard you sing high, but yesterday, the extremes to which...
You can get.
No, but the extremes to which the music is written and demands. It almost sounds unsingable.
You're right. In Rossini, you have to sing a legato phrase, yeah?
A smooth
a legato phrase, and suddenly, a passage of coloratura. Suddenly.
Fast-moving notes, yes.
Exactly. For example, yesterday in Zelmira. Se caro a te sonio legato, se respira il figlio ancora. That's the coloratura. So it's a change of gear. Yes. You cannot let yourself go, because then you cannot do,
Yeah.
you're too wide, you're too open, you're too... it's too
That's
much
a
more.
fantastic explanation.
So, you know, in the coloratura, you can depict different emotions, I think. And this is the wonderful thing of listening to a Rossini singer. That with the coloratura, he can be mean, he can be happy, he can be, you know, stressed, worried, tormented.
Dolce speranza, freddo timore, dentro al mio cuore stanno a pugnare. Dolce speranza, freddo timore, dentro al mio cuore stanno a pugnare. Dolce speranza, freddo timore, dentro al cuore.
It's the expression of extreme feelings. These crazy coloraturas, extreme music, mad tempi are the expression of the madness of the character, of the madness of his feelings at that moment.
Rossini's Barber of Seville is his crowning masterpiece, and from my first time conducting it, I'm working with the directors Moshe Leiser and Patrice Courrier at the Royal Opera House. The key characters are Figaro the barber, Rosina a young ward, and the tenor Lindoro, a count, who's disguised here as a priest. Like Mozart's Marriage of Figaro, Rossini's Barber of Seville is based on a Beaumarchais play with the same central character, Figaro, played here by Pietro Spagnoli. Figaro's entrance aria, Cavatina, is no contemplative, sweet little aria. It's a storm of orchestral activity and rhythm. He is the everything to everyone, the factotum della città, and he says, make room for the factotum della città. But we hear his voice from off stage first.
What Rossini sets in this aria is a working class man, barber, that is known for being the matchmaker of the city, and obviously he's a man very much on demand.
He says, what a beautiful life I have. For a barber of quality. And we go ahead in that vein. In the next section, we encounter a device that Rossini almost invented and used very, very often, the Rossini crescendo. Starting very, very soft, the orchestra becomes louder and louder, gradually.
Tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, donne ragazzi, vecchie fanciulle, ho la parrucca, resto la barba, ho la sanguigna.
Here's the crescendo.
Tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, tutti mi chiedono, tutti mi vogliono, ho la parrucca, prendo la barba, prendo il biglietto, lei, Figaro, Figaro.
They're calling him from everywhere.
Figaro, 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 Figaro.
I don't know what to do.
In the aria, he depicts a man under stress.
One at a time, he says. And then the patter of patters.
Bravo, Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, bravo, Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, fortunatissimo, 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 per verità. Fortunatissimo, 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 per verità. Hai fatto nella città, hai fatto nella città, nella città.
The public couldn't get enough of Rossini, and his working life was as hectic as his music. He was contracted to write 2 operas a year for Naples, but The Barber was written for Rome, and legend has it he dashed it off in less than 3 weeks. And yet, he created one of the greatest roles for the mezzo-soprano voice. The heroine is played here by Joyce Di Donato. Now, Joyce, this is Rosina's entrance aria, her cavatina. We find out a lot about her in this aria. Can you tell us, what is it about her? What's going on?
Well, the first thing is she's a teenager, and she's quite impulsive and full of hormones, I think. The problem with her is that she's stuck in a room, barred behind windows, and kept by an old tutor who wants her for her dowry, for her money. So her goal is to find a way to break free. The way to that is via a voice that she just heard outside her window, who belongs to the tenor named Lindoro. And she thinks he's going to be the way out for her.
So she's quite resolute, yes?
Yes. And impulsive, I think.
And crafty.
Yeah. And excited.
Plucked strings accompanying. The voice sounded in her heart. She's been struck by Cupid, if you like. Lindoro is his name. First outburst. He'll be mine, I swear it. I will win. She repeats the same words.
It is the most difficult music. It has to be precise. The dynamic has to be right, the phrasing has to be right, the colors have to be right, the character has to be right. It is incredibly written music.
Sweet and loving. I let myself be led. But
ma se mi trovano dove il mio demone sono una vivera sarò e 100 dragoni prima di genere hanno giocato.
what just happened? What just
She
happened?
says, but, Ma, if anyone touches me, I can become like a viper and go back up and just rip scorn all over them.
It is that very malicious, rebellious character of of a young girl that Rossini depicts in his music.
She's back. You're so dolce. Frustrated.
It's not a question of love, it's a question of air.
But now you did what we call a portamento. You glided, you brought the voice up, and you rolled the R.
Yeah.
And what does that bring?
What I think this does is really show Rosina's craftiness and her intelligence. She gets a bit carried away, she's a bit over the top, and she's got to bring it back to her task at hand, which is laying these 100 traps. So,
and then what?
she's back to her wily ways.
On the first night of our production, Joyce fell and broke her leg on stage, but true to Rosina's indomitable character, she soldiered on for the rest of the run in a wheelchair. Rossini wasn't the first composer to set the Barber of Seville to music. 30 years earlier, Giovanni Paisiello had a huge international hit with his version. On the opening night of Rossini's Barbiere di Siviglia, the theatre was packed with Paisiello followers who were there expressly to disrupt the proceedings. The opening night was a fiasco. But, Rossini went on to have the last laugh, because his biting, cynical comic masterpiece completely eclipsed Paisiello's rather timid affair. By the 1820s, opera, like musicals today, was big business, and Rossini's Barber of Seville is still one of the world's most performed operas. Rossini was a true man of the theatre, and just before the finale, he throws in an incredible, crowd-pleasing showstopper.
And at the end, you have to sing one of the most difficult arias in the repertoire.
The
moment we've been waiting for now.
il più lieto e più felice il mio corte così avanti, non fuggite o lieti stati della mia felicità, non fuggite o lieti stati.
This aria is difficult because it's like a compendium of bel canto.
Non fuggite o lieti stati della mia felicità.
This coloratura is very fast. It's the stretta finale, means the last race. And it has a lot of chromatisms, high notes, jumps, and it ends with a very long high note.
Some variations now.
Non fuggite o lieti stati della mia felicità.
A little stretta, in other words, a tightening of the music. Stretta feeling again, the Rossini crescendo. Dramatic scale. Typical cadence. Typical Rossinian ending.
You took me very fast. Yeah, it's fun, right?
Yeah, it's great.
It's like a...
Hey, now I can say I conducted The Barber of Seville. End of the dress rehearsal. Audience very enthusiastic. In fact, the tenor aria stopped the show today. How far opera has traveled, from Monteverdi to Rossini, with Monteverdi's freedom and eroticism to Rossini's precision and wit. Grazie ragazzi. Bravi. Adesso lo dobbiamo fare di nuovo, Questo è... In the next chapter of Italian opera, it will take the romantic bel canto fervor of Bellini and Donizetti to prepare the way for the titan, Giuseppe Verdi.
Good one, eh?
That was fun, I need this now.
And opera on the BBC continues here on BBC4 with Stephen Fry on Wagner tomorrow at 9. And then on Wednesday at 9 we dip into the Diva Diaries. There's a little taster of that coming up in just a second. Next tonight, stay with us for brand new Storyville.